This is Matthew Kratters, Bitcoin University. Today I want to talk about Kamala Harris as the real Bitcoin candidate. Now, Trump and RFK Jr. have each been marketing themselves as the quote-unquote Bitcoin candidate in 2024, and by contrast, Kamala and her campaign have been quite resistant to throwing even a small bone to Bitcoiners. But what if Kamala were the true Bitcoin candidate? There are in fact lots of indications that she intends to do stuff that will pump Bitcoin to the moon. We can begin with her plan to lower costs as president, her new tax relief to families, up to $6,000 for parents of newborns, and up to $3,600 per child by restoring the expanded child tax credit. Now, the mainstream media is in strong agreement that this is a bold and generous proposal. The only problem is when J.D. Vance proposed a very similar tax credit 1 week ago, everyone realized what a bad idea it was. This was a week ago. Vance wants to raise the child tax credit to $5,000. So it's the same order of magnitude as what Kamala wants to do. In that same article, the Tax Foundation points out Vance's idea for expansion could be challenging as lawmakers face growing concerns over the federal budget deficit. Increasing the child tax credit to $5,000, or whether it's $6,000 as Kamala wants to do, could cost somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3 trillion over 10 years, the Tax Foundation's Watson said. So over 20 years, that's about 17% of the current debt that it took the U.S. 248 years to accumulate. We're currently at $35 trillion in national debt, and that's not counting the over $200 trillion in unfunded liabilities. In addition, Kamala is promising first-time homebuyers $25,000 to help with a down payment on a new home. This is actually great news for current homeowners. As this money makes its way through the system, housing prices will appreciate by the amount of new liquidity that is being injected into the system by the U.S. government, which will easily be in the trillions of dollars as well. That's great news for homeowners like me, but it is a little bit difficult to see how it helps renters since it puts the American dream that much further out of their reach. And that's why in 4 years from now, I'm going to be hoping that Kamala will offer a $100,000 bonus to new home buyers so that they can play catch up. Will this cause only housing prices to go to the moon? Absolutely not, since all of these plans will need to be paid for with the money printer as well. The U.S. is already running massive deficits, so any new spending can only increase deficits, and the need for the Fed to monetize those deficits with money printing. That money printing will create even more inflation and pump Bitcoin's price to the moon. Why does Kamala love Bitcoiners so much, you have to ask yourself. If you're enjoying this video so far, please help to support the channel. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video. Also share this video with a friend or family member. Now, can't these new government programs be paid for with taxes so that the deficits aren't quite as large? Yes, to a limited extent. We could start, I think, by adding 100% wealth tax to U.S. billionaires. In other words, let's confiscate all of their money and possessions in one fell swoop. Surely that will get us to our federal budget goals. As of July 2024, the combined wealth of U.S. billionaires is approximately $6 trillion. Now, $6 trillion seems like a lot of money, but unfortunately, it will only pay for the first 20 years of the child tax credit. It's not going to be enough money to get all of those renters their own houses. There's also some downside. Every single person employed by those billionaires or who relies on those billionaires spending will lose their jobs and will need government assistance, which will further increase budget deficits. Although makers of fancy cars, clothes, jets, private chefs, limo drivers, party caterers, house cleaners, security personnel, there are going to be a lot of middle class and working class jobs that are lost as part of this. Confiscating billionaire wealth could also have some negative effects. It could lead to a mass exodus of people who would prefer to build their companies in a jurisdiction that doesn't want to steal 100% of what they've earned and built. Now, we spoke yesterday about the various problems with the price controls that Kamala wants to roll out. And I'll link to this in the description notes below, grocery store price gouging and the whole question surrounding that. Now, what I didn't mention in yesterday's video is this, that when you put price controls on food, you ultimately end up with food shortages like you had in the Soviet Union, the USSR. That leads to food rationing. Now, what's the best way to ration food? You need very reliable ways to ID people and link it to their money. So you can expect a rollout of a digital ID with biometric controls, fingerprinting, iris or retinal scanning, etc. And as your life becomes more and more trapped inside the digital prison of government money and government ID, you can expect the demand for freedom money, for Bitcoin, will skyrocket. So more Kamala means more Bitcoin adoption. It's hard to imagine a better forcing function than pure societal chaos and government crackdowns and overreach to teach people very quickly how badly they need Bitcoin if they want to be able to feed and protect their families. Now, in the interest of fairness here, Trump and Vance could be amazing for Bitcoin as well. For example, J.D. Vance wants to hit Iran hard. This could be a very expensive endeavor that could cost at least, call it 5x, 10x what it costs to liberate Iraq and Afghanistan. So let's put the all-in figure at, call it 50 trillion, because the U.S. military is much less competent than it was 15 years ago. And that's even if the conflict doesn't turn nuclear. Unfortunately, 50 trillion, that's 15 trillion more than the 35 trillion in debt that it took 248 years to accumulate. That's a lot more money printing and Bitcoin pumping. Now, in fairness to Kamala, she might end up being a warmonger like Bush and Obama, so we might end up getting a big war in the Middle East or Eastern Europe with her administration as well. Additionally, Trump ran huge budget deficits in his first term. He expanded the budget deficits from both directions, cutting taxes while still managing to find ways to increase government spending, even though he had a Republican majority in the House and the Senate. So much for the Republicans being the party of small government. Bigger budget deficits means more money printing, means Bitcoin to the moon. So perhaps Trump wouldn't be too bad, a Trump administration wouldn't be too bad. But I still feel that Kamala is a better candidate if you are in favor of accelerationism. If you're going to hit the wall at 60 miles per hour anyway, why not put the pedal to the metal and hit it at 100 miles per hour? You might just break through the wall and not get injured at all. And government price controls are the kind of accelerant that preppers and revolutionaries alike dream of. Is it time for an accelerationist approach? I think none of us are getting any younger, so perhaps we might as well have the unraveling happen sooner rather than later so that we can just get it over with. If you want to live to see that phoenix rising from the ashes, remember that a big pile of smoldering ashes is the necessary precondition. And that is why I'm endorsing Kamala for president in 2024. I really wanted to endorse Trump, but he apparently owns only one Bitcoin or less. As you can see, if you scroll through this thread, it appears that he owns a lot more Ethereum and owns probably only a single Bitcoin, or he's in violation of campaign disclosures and he's not disclosing that he has Bitcoin. I also wanted to endorse RFK Jr. Seems like a great guy, but he clearly has zero judgment or understanding of the space since he has been repeatedly associating himself with someone whom I believe is one of the biggest scammers of all time and who has one of the worst performing coins. This is Charles Hoskinson, whom RFK calls a crypto guru and who is endorsing RFK Jr. And RFK Jr. is just having a fireside chat with Charles Hoskinson as well. So you can tell a lot about people by the company that they keep. So I say let's raise a toast to our next president, President Kamala Placidia. If you follow the collapse of the Roman Empire, you will remember that the last Roman empress was Galla Placidia, and it was pretty cool because she ended up marrying a Visigoth as well. So that's why I hope she will take the surname Placidia if she's elected the next president of the United States in November of 2024. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.